RugbyRenegade.com, the #1 online strength and conditioning program for rugby. Are you ready to get bigger, stronger, fitter, and faster and dominate your opposition? Welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast, where we build machines.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Rugby Renegade Podcast. Today we're going to go through some FAQs we get on the website and the online subscription program. And joining me today, got the great pleasure of having Dan Jones, one of the founders of Rugby Renegade, and he's going to walk us through some of the FAQs. Dan, I've been trying to get you on for ages. Great to have you here.
Good to be here, Jamie.
So where do you want to start? I think it'd be good to sort of start with the origins of Rugby Renegade, how it came about. Obviously you were a big part of that. Do you want to start us on that? Yeah,
absolutely. I think so. Rugby Renegade was kind of the brainchild, really, of Robin Selden-Taylor, former Wales international rugby player and Cardiff Blues back rower. Robin's sort of since gone on to develop his career in strength and conditioning, and he currently works with the Cardiff Blues senior team. Robin came to me about 2 or 3 years ago with an idea that he basically wanted to create an online platform for strength and conditioning, with a view to sort of having a community similar to like a Facebook community or something like that, where people can bounce off ideas and follow a similar program to develop their sort of strength and conditioning and fitness sort of for their rugby careers. Robin, to be fair to him, had identified, sort of, I suppose, a gap in the market, or, certainly there was an area that was lacking provision. So we sort of got together and, bounced a few ideas off, and from there, started the Rugby Renegade story.
Nice. And so obviously you're from a medical background as a physiotherapist. How did he see you getting involved at the start?
Well, I think obviously Robin certainly brought the sort of strength and conditioning expertise to the table, but as we all know, there's more to the physical prep for rugby play than just the sort of the strength and fitness element. There's obviously the injury prevention angle, and the physiotherapy input there sort of, I think, complements the S&C nicely. So although there's a strong bias on strength and conditioning, there's also sort of a strong element of injury prevention, prehab and rehab methods sort of running through it. So that's where sort of I came in, really, was to add that sort of skill set. And I think, it complemented quite nicely.
Yeah, and I think we were talking before, and like obviously injuries in rugby are so common, and we're in an environment where we get to spend hours with, the top professionals, helping them, prehab and rehab from injuries. And, amateur rugby players don't have that. And I think we're given, kind of that information to them so they can get back fit and not re-injure themselves. Yeah, I think it's good.
It's definitely an area as well. I think, even the professional players, the players who come into academy level, and even some of those who are playing at top level, I think, it's the level of education that those boys are provided with. They don't necessarily know how to manage, their injuries. They don't necessarily know how to recover sort of efficiently or effectively. So it's nice to be able to sort of pass that information down the levels. If you're an amateur player with ambitions to make the top, it just means that, that information is available, and you can go ahead and manage yourself, to the best of your ability, really. And I think if that education and that sort of resource is out there, you can basically replicate, what the professional athletes are doing. And, quite often, it's not through a lack of will, it's just, not knowing what the right things are, and when. So I think that's what Rugby Renegade does. It fills that gap and allows, amateurs and possibly semi-professional players to sort of, potentially take their careers to the next level.
Yeah. I like to think of it as we're bringing up that grassroots almost in a way, and you do hear stories of players. I think Sean Perry is from a few years ago now, but Sean Perry, the England scrum half, who there's stories of him, working as a welder, and then 6 months later he's playing for England, or as a professional rugby player. So it's it's given people that potential. And although there's really good academies set up, there's people who slip through the net, and if they can get good sort of strength and conditioning and injury prevention information early, then they got that chance of going professional. So it's good. Right, so into the FAQ. So the idea is to just answer those frequently asked questions that we get on the website for guys, whether you're interested in the online subscription program, you know, you're kind of on the fence whether you sign up or not, or if you're using it and how to get the kind of best out of it. So where should we start, Dan?
I think, you know, we've covered some of the bits and pieces there, but one of the main questions, you know, is who is the Rugby Renegade S&C program aimed at? And you know, we've covered a lot of it there, but it's definitely aimed at those sort of players who take their rugby quite seriously. They take their sort of training quite seriously, and you know, we're generally targeting those people who are a fairly intermediate or an advanced level of conditioning. That, you know, they're keen on, you know, their core lifts. You know, your squat, deadlift, your presses, your pulls, and the Olympic lifts. And what we're looking to try and do is give them a structured program, day on day, week on week. You know, through off season, pre-season, in season. So it's basically aimed at those people who don't have the professional support, but can access, you know, a fairly, you know, well serviced, you know, professionally led program. So it's definitely aimed at those people, amateur, sort of sub-elite, or, you know, semi-professional. You know, really geared towards bringing them and bringing their level of performance to a level to potentially take them to maybe professional level.
Yeah, and of course prevent injuries. And you touched on there, you know, talking about some of the lifts. Another sort of frequently asked question is you know, what information do I need before beginning? And we program a lot with, you know, percentages of 1 rep max. So it's a good idea. I'm sure if you're, you know, an amateur and you're interested in the stuff, you'll have a rough idea of what your back squat 1RM is, your deadlift, bench, military press, and cleans. We do use the Olympic lift, so it'd be great if you had an idea of that to start, so you can come in and just jump in the program as is. You don't have to sort of test before getting involved. What next, Dan?
I think it's important for you know, people to know what the daily workout consists of. Now, you know, I suppose the CrossFit craze has coined the phrase WOD, workout of the day, and you know, going back to the origins of Rugby Renegade, there is a sort of a strong CrossFit type of theme. Certainly, you know, with the background from where, you know, Robin sort of come from, and I've worked a lot with sort of CrossFitters. And I know you know yourself, you've been involved in that setup. So, you know, we've gone with this sort of workout of the day, but it is more of a traditional kind of rugby S&C format with a flavour of some sort of CrossFit workout, Metcon type work. So, you know, most daily workouts will have some form of warm up, which generally includes mobility work, followed by some form of prehabilitation, and what that prehab is geared towards is just that, you know, 15-20 minutes before session, working on, you know, certain key areas. So for rugby it would be shoulder, you know, hamstring, you know, knee type, you know, injuries, which are you know, as we know, are quite common injuries. So just working on those key injury prevention areas before then they go into a strength component, strength power component depending on the block. And most days you'll see a workout of the day, or WOD, which is generally a Metcon, whether it be gym-based or field-based, depending on the time of year. And again, you know, depending on what the focus is that time of year, that may be optional, or it may be part of the session. So it's fairly structured: warm-up, prehab. You've got a strength or power component, and then finishing off with a blast at the end. And generally, you know, these sessions, you know, can be split across the day. So if people are working, they can maybe have an early morning session where they perhaps focus on their sort of strength work, and they can have an afternoon session which may be focused on conditioning or sort of injury prevention. Yeah,
for instance, the pre-season program we're currently going through, you've got your strength and power, and then in the morning, and then in the afternoon you've either got sort of speed or acceleration work, and then the following day you'll have strength and power again, but an upper body emphasis, and then in the afternoon session you'll have your conditioning. So it's kind of designed so you can tailor it around your rugby training. For instance, if you're still doing rugby training pre-season with your club, you can maybe snip that out or put it on as extras at the end if it's not too tough. But I doubt that at the minute where we are in the season. Next question.
Yeah, I think it leads in quite nicely here, because what we often get asked, from our subscribers and from people looking to join the Rugby Renegade sort of team, is that as an amateur player, does the individual complete each and every week fully? So do they do every exercise, every set, every rep, every day? And I think it's quite important for us to outline that, what we're putting in place here is the best case scenario. Yeah. Possibly oversubscribing for some, with work commitments or family commitments, it may be difficult to squeeze in everything that we put on the program. And what we tend to say is that we put the best case scenario out there, and then there's a little bit of a flexibility available for each individual to tailor that work to suit their needs, to suit how they're feeling on any given day. But what we do try and put out there is a fairly consistent platform, and it's down to the individual then to, there may be some specific work-ons that they're looking to do, whether they're looking to gain mass or whether they're looking to sort of reduce body fat percentage, and that'll dictate then whether they focus their work on their strength and hypertrophy, or whether they then ensure that they work on those metcons to bring to improve their conditioning and bring down their body fat. So there is a bit of flexibility there, and the answer really is, do I complete each week fully? For some people, yes, if they've got that sort of training capacity, and for some people, no, it may be a little bit more tailored.
Yeah, definitely. And it's more an issue in season where we kind of put the program out as if you're not playing a game on the Saturday. Obviously, if you're playing on the Saturday, you wouldn't do the weight session on the Friday or the conditioning on the Saturday, unless you come off the bench and only play 20 minutes or something. You can do a top up, but we try and put that program out so you've got the option there. If you're not available, obviously we hope you are. If you're not available to play, so you can get the most out of it. A couple of good tips is like you're saying, Dan, is figure out what your goals are. Obviously, if you want to lose a bit of weight to improve your performance, then make sure you're doing the metcons at the ends of the sessions. If you're trying to put on muscle mass, then you'd probably take those out and then put more emphasis, take a bit more time. Even if you're feeling up to it, add a couple of sets on the strength work. And then another good rule of thumb in season is try and front load that early part of the week, so you sort of taper off as you come into the game, so you're fresh, because ultimately we're doing it for performance, so you've got to be fresh for that.
I think the added bonus within this weekly program as well is that we do have a strong emphasis. We've already mentioned the prehab work, which is something that we work for injury prevention, but also there's a strong theme of recovery in the program. So you'll see generally on those deload days, the middle of the week where it's a lighter day, that there's a rehab or prehab focus that'll be coupled with recovery protocols, and we've got fairly robust protocol there, which any professional athlete or rugby player will be following, and I think that that's a real added bonus for subscribers. They've got a fairly structured recovery protocol to follow. We regularly put out sort of bespoke pool sessions, and we also guide people towards sort of nutrition products. We've got discounts on nutrition products and recovery modalities and I suppose garments. So there's lots of added value in there, and I think the recovery protocol, I think is sometimes overlooked. I think people tend to really go to town on how hard they train, and then sometimes neglect the importance of recovery. And I think it's probably a little bit of a cliche, but the rest is equally as important as the work itself. So there's a lot of good stuff in there that I think people can really sort of, again, go back to the education, just really understand the benefit of recovery and really follow our protocol, because I think it gives you good guidance in the right things to be doing: nutrition, sleep, and a few other gems in there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you train hard, you've got to recover hard as well. And as well, we've got the free articles. There's stuff on recovery and nutrition, and we're also offering a free nutrition ebook on sign up. So if you get those things right, you get even more out of your training and obviously then your performance.
Yeah.
What's next?
I think it's good. It'd be a good thing to touch on our ebooks. It leads in quite nicely. I think this is a section that since you've come on board, Jamie, has developed really well. And what we've got there are some really good resources for those people who maybe feel that a monthly subscription is a bit of a strong commitment. We've got I suppose an archive or some structured off-season, pre-season and in-season training programs, so you can buy those as separate units, separate ebooks, and that gives someone a full 4-week or a full 12-week block to go and plan. Some people maybe like to plan ahead, so instead of waiting for our daily feed, they'll have their next 12 weeks mapped out for them. And I think this ebook section is a really great development for us. I think it allows people the access maybe perhaps on their tablet or their iPhone, which is a little bit more portable for the gym. But also that's coupled with a really useful nutrition ebook, which again, coupled with the recovery that we've been discussing, nutrition is a massive factor in how well our training goes. I think there's the old saying that you can't outrun your fork, and this is definitely like a resource that people really should have a look at. And the good thing with this nutrition ebook as well is that on subscription, you get a free ebook worth $9.99, and there's loads of good information there on the right foods, supplements for rugby, supplement safety, as well as some good recipes for people to go away and really get working on. And then we've obviously got our sort of WOD Bible, and again there's some really good stuff in there, collating a lot of our sort of metcons, and again it's touching on a little bit more of that CrossFit for rugby type of area that that is ultimately sort of core to our origins, really.
Yeah, I think one of the other frequently asked questions we had is we got members from all around the world, and some of them are like, where do I start the program? I'm currently in season and you're on the pre-season block, and that's fine. You've got a couple options. You can look through the archive. We've got over 2 years archive programs now, or you can just buy one of the ebooks. For instance, if you're in pre-season, you buy the pre-season ebook, jump on that until you get in line with our program, and then crack on with that. But with the ebooks, there's loads more coming. We've got a few ideas of sort of stuff on the injury prevention side, as well as more specific programs. For instance, we want to do one for sevens, and sort of specialisation ones. So I think that's going to be something that'll build as we go on. What next?
I think something that's been sort of ever present really from the early days of Rugby Renegade are the training articles. The physiotherapy articles and the nutrition articles that are there on our website. Now, as subscribers, you get full access to this area, and I think there's heaps of information in there. There's so much information and experience shared. From Robin's time in sport and as an athlete. Bearing in mind he played at the top level, and then for yourself, Jamie, having worked at the top level for a number of years, and myself from a medical perspective. So I think would urge people to come and have a look at the website and have a real good look through the articles, because there's a good 2 or 3 years worth of training articles there that maybe touch on a few things that are slightly different to the norm. Like some of the sleep stuff that we've covered off. The workouts. So something that we've been working on over the years is sort of the rugby proof athlete. So rugby proof hamstrings, rugby proof shoulders. There's some really good resources in there for people to have a look at. And then looking over some of the traditional S&C methodologies, like your plyometrics, your accommodated resistance. So there's a load of resource there that that is available to non-subscribers, and also a greater depth of articles for the subscribers.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are things that just if you've got a sort of interest in it, but there are also things you can bolt onto the program or will help you understand the program better and get more out of it. Especially like the injury prevention ones. The rugby proof hamstring and shoals. Obviously, if you've had issues there, then you can just read that, understand it, and then apply it to your training, and get more out of your rugby.
I think as well, it is a resource for amateur rugby players and I suppose semi-professional rugby players, but it's also a resource for people who are maybe looking to get into sport, or maybe junior or even more experienced S&C practitioners or medical practitioners. We're not saying that that we've covered every base with this, but there's a lot of information there that can trigger debate or even sort of trigger thought and maybe further looking deeper reading, and it's something that we're quite keen on. If there are professionals out there looking at our website, it'd be great if they got in touch with us to bounce ideas back and forth, because certainly I found writing the articles and reading the S&C articles that Robin and yourself have produced, and some sort of guest articles that we've had, is that I've learnt a huge amount on top of what your base knowledge was, just purely by being involved and writing these things. So I think it's for us, well, certainly for me, and I think for the people who subscribe and the people who visit our website, we are trying to create a little bit of a community and share thoughts and ideas. And I think that's that's certainly how I approach my day-to-day working in sports. Quite open and want to share ideas, and I think that's something that we welcome with Rugby Renegade, is people from the outside to share their thoughts and certainly sort of help us develop.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes in the UK we're a bit kind of cloak and dagger about what we do. We try and find out what other people are doing, but don't really share what we're doing ourselves. I think that's wrong. A lot of other countries are quite open with their sort of their knowledge and what they're doing, and that just helps everyone. And the other thing, you talk about community, I think that's one of the great things. We're starting to get a lot more sort of interaction with our members on social media, sort of tweeting pictures and things, tagging us on Instagram, and that's great. When you finish a WOD and you get a really good time and you're happy with it, post it up, and that'll create competition with the other members, and that competition just breeds success. I mean, that's one of the things we always try and get in, working in rugby at the top levels, get players in groups, positional groups, competing against each other, and it's a great atmosphere to work in, and people get more out of it. They push harder and get better results. So that's something we started to see a lot more of, and we hope it continues in the future. Next thing, Dan.
I think, like we said, we probably try and close things off with just having a discussion about, we touched upon it there, is how to get involved with sort of pro level sport, it's like career development and that type of thing. So we're just to have a look, discussion on, how we got into our sort of respective fields, and how we went about that, and trying to relate that to perhaps some of the resources on Rugby Renegade. And I certainly found in my early part of my career, opportunities at the top level of sport were limited, because you've essentially not got a CV to sort of to brag about, really. And I think a lot of the experiences and a lot of the knowledge built that's shared on the Rugby Renegade articles and sort of rehab programs are built upon maybe the experiences and perhaps successes and failures of starting out with voluntary roles. I'm thinking of from my time when starting out travelling, working with like Ponsonby Rugby Club as a volunteer for their sort of academy level. And then, coming back and working in a very junior role with Worcester Warriors, and then Cardiff Blues Academy. And these roles were, low paid, long hours type roles where, you maybe feel like, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But I don't think you can underestimate the sort of the value of the sort of exposure and learning that you're getting in those roles. And, we've recently released an article sort of as an S&C intern, one of the lads at Gloucester, and I think it provides a really good insight into how people really have to put that sort of groundwork in and really get that exposure to then develop their career, to the top end, because we do make mistakes along the way, and nobody's perfect, but I think it's that early stage, those learning experiences that you have that set you up for success in the future. And I mean, I suppose it's the same in strength and conditioning.
Oh yeah. Look back over the place I've been in my career. First thing, I've been really fortunate to have worked under some great S&Cs. I've worked under Mick McGurn at the Ospreys for a very short period of time, and then Mark Bennett, who was with Wales for a good number of years before he was at the Ospreys, and now is with Bristol and just brought them up from the Championship, and Alex Lawson, who's now over in Japan. And then when I had my first paid role at Bedford in the Championship, I worked with Mike Rea, who's probably famous for being Mikey Rea all dayer, but is a great coach, and is touted as the best coach outside the Premiership. And to work with him day in day out, you learn a lot, and also you're not in that sort of place where you got loads of money, you got loads of resources, and you have to sort of deal with what you've got, and you make mistakes and you learn from them, but you also learn how to make the most of a bad situation, because it's always give and take. In any environment you work with, there's different people who've got to get their message across or get their time with the players, and it's learning how to sort of deal with those situations. And then of course, moving to Gloucester, I've been lucky to work. Paddy Anson brought me in when he came from Exeter, and it was great to work with him for 4 years. And now with Dan Tobin, who's had 4 years at Leinster, one of the most successful teams in the sort of Celtic League. It's great to work with those people, learn from them, but also you learn from your working with players and how to deal with players. And internships are a funny thing at the moment. It's kind of a contentious issue. Should we have them or not? But all I know is I had a great experience, and it got me that first opportunity, to get my name around, and it gave me my first reference from my first paid job. And it's just a great environment to work in, so you don't mind kind of working in it for free.
I think it's very similar to the old school apprenticeship, isn't it? I think my father's a carpenter, and I think he's had a number of apprentices over the years, and I think S&C and medical is very similar. You come in and you're young. Once you've got your qualifications, it takes you to a level, but there's being qualified, and then there's being sort of fit to practice at a certain level. And I think, similar to yourself, having worked alongside people like Prav Mathema and Mark Davis at the WRU, when I was with the Sems there, you really get to sort of rub shoulders with people and learn from their practice, learn from their experience. And at the time I spent with Gloucester with yourself, Jamie, and Bob Stewart, who's a 3-time British Lion tourist. These people
as a physio, not a player, just to be clear.
As a physio, not a player. But working alongside these guys, you do get an opportunity to pick their brains, and you do get an opportunity to sort of learn from, I suppose, their experiences, their successes, their failures. And now I'm working alongside John Miles, who's head of medical at Cardiff Blues, who's had a history of working in rugby league with London Broncos, and he's been a successful head of medical at Cardiff Blues for quite a while now, for 3 or 4 years. And it's important that for me, it's important that you park your ego and understand that everyone's got something to offer, and you can learn a lot from each individual. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of being successful in a sporting environment, is that as long as you can park your ego, work as a team with S&C, with coaches, and maintain strong communication, and understand that everyone's got a lot of experience, and you can learn a lot from nearly all these individuals. I think if you can slot in and understand that you are a part of a team, and you're just part, you're another cog in the wheel, really. I think that to me is key to success, and I think as long as you hold that core value, I think you can do well whatever field you are, S&C, medical, coaching. And I think when you look at keeping it topical. You look at the success of something like the FAW at the minute, the Welsh football team, where that is clearly a result of a collective. I think if you can carry that sort of attitude into your career, I think you can do pretty well.
I thought it was just Gareth Bale, but no, I think you're right there, and that's a good lesson for anyone who wants to get a career in sport. It's everyone's coming out with sports science or physiotherapy degrees. You've got to. The first thing is you've got to be seen to be able to work in that environment, and be a good character in that. I think the second bit of advice we can give is what's your kind of universal selling point for yourself. Like, you can't just be a bog standard strength and conditioning coach or a physio. You've got to have that extra little something, whether it's I'm an expert in Olympic weightlifting or rehab strength and conditioning, speed and plyometrics, whatever it might be, or more sports science. You've got to have that unique selling point, and kind of differentiate you, because I've interviewed interns and for other positions, and there's so many CVs that have very similar stuff. What we want to see is someone who's worked well in a team. So for start, you've got to start volunteering. If you're in uni now, start volunteering at your uni teams or local clubs, and then specialise in something. So a lot of senior S&Cs are kind of more generalists because they're running a department. They want someone who's going to add to their department. So if they're lacking in speed and power, they want someone who can add to that. So try and be a specialist at something, and then you progress from there. What about in medical? Is it a bit different, or?
No, I think the key thing in medical is that you prove your competency, really, and I think for me, I think it's important that that's done over a certain period of time. There'll always be areas of interest. People will naturally migrate towards an interest in shoulder pathology or knee, or maybe upper limb or lower limb, or even spinal. There's always that tendency for areas of interest. But working in sport, generally in a medical department, you are kind of general practitioners in a way, where certainly in rugby it tests you from head to toe. Maybe soccer, for example, is more lower limb biased. There's other sports that are maybe more upper limb biased, like throwing sports. But with rugby, you need to have a fairly sound knowledge of whether it be spinal, upper limb, lower limb. So it's not quite as specialised, although people will have those areas of interest. But I think the primary thing that I would say is that people have spent that time working with the academy athletes, your adolescent athletes, you're developing sort of academy players, because what that does, it gives you a sound sort of baseline, in my opinion, of working with people and teaching them how to move efficiently. You come across the Gray Cook stuff or the Calvin Giles, which is more the movement competency, and I think if you do spend that sort of do your sort of time with the academy athletes, teaching them how to move correctly, squat, move single leg, effectively with effective control, and I think from there you can sort of bolt on perhaps the more sort of elaborate, fancy techniques. But I think as you can tell, my belief is that you need to have those sort of core qualities in place, understand how how people move, and build their strength and control from there. I think that's where your days in the academy sort of really hone those skills. Once you get to the senior level, we know what the pressures of the day-to-day competition is like. You perhaps don't quite have the luxury of spending as much time on those sorts of things, and it's perhaps a little bit more then of having a sound ability to assess, diagnose, and plan efficiently for whether it's pre-season or in season. But you need to be perhaps a little bit more efficient in your prognosis and your return to play planning. And when you're working, certainly at the levels we're working at now, we know that time lost through injury generally relates to success on the field. The lower the time loss, generally the more success you have on the field. You want your best players on the park. So the pressures on the medical side changes.
Well, you look at Leicester City. That was one of their sort of claims to fame this year.
I think they had the second lowest time loss. So I think that's where although it's not quite as specialist, I think through the phases of your career, you find that the emphasis will change. Those early days it's more about sort of athlete development, and then later on it's a little bit more about the performance side of things. Obviously keeping medical ethics and everything in mind, but the pressures certainly change, and the emphasis changes for sure. Definitely.
And again, going back to the internships, the other thing you get as well as the experience is just the contacts. Rugby's kind of a small world, really, and if you develop a good reputation as an intern somewhere, then you've got a group of coaches, a group of S&Cs, a group of medical who will give you references. They might hear about jobs that you won't hear about, and you want to think about it as almost like a year-long job interview where you're building your reputation, and then your next job you build reputation even more, and you're building your network of people you've worked with, and then at some point a coach will move and there'll be another opportunity there, and you're more likely to get that job. It goes back to the cliche, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's obviously you need to have a good basis, but also people want to work with people they know will fit in the environment, and the best way to know that is if they worked with you before. So networking is a huge thing. So again, that's another reason to get out volunteering now, because I'm pretty sure all my positions I've been fortunate enough to get is someone has known someone who's put a good word in or given you a reference, and that's a massive thing.
I think that boils back to how you conduct yourself and what your values are, and generally if you're a good bloke or a good person and you fit into an environment, ultimately in the long term that'll do your career no harm. We've all worked with different groups and different people. Things have gone well, things haven't gone well, but I think ultimately, like you say, whether you're an intern, whether you're a senior, as long as your core values are for the team and you're generally sort of doing it for the right reasons, I think that'll shine through, and in future things can come together for you. So although in those early parts of your career you may think, goodness, I'm putting a lot of hours in here for a very little return, you do find there is a return on that investment along the line, and it's definitely worthwhile doing. I'm glad I spent time in the early days doing those roles, because I think it bears fruit later in your career, and it certainly wasn't a waste of time for me.
Yeah. So if anyone's out there, currently doing sports science degree or physiotherapy, volunteer as much as you can, whether it's uni or local clubs, and you just build your network to start, and then start looking for internships and try and progress from there. Dan, is that about it? Covered everything?
Yeah, I think so.
The only other thing to mention on the website is the podcast, but obviously we're on one now, so people are listening to them.
Yeah, the podcast has been a great addition, and I think it's something that we're keen to develop. I know we've got a few more sort of really experienced personnel in the industry lined up, and lots to look forward to there. I think the podcast gives us a little bit more of a human element to the website. I know we I know Jamie features in a lot of our videos, but it is great to sort of to sort of get a little bit more in touch with our sort of subscribers and our listeners. So, and hopefully I'll spend a little bit more time from now on the podcasts.
Definitely, give me a break. No, the podcast's been great. Talking about networking, it's just talking to like-minded coaches, and it's good for us to. We've managed to sort of develop some really good contacts through our careers, and it's just another great way of sharing that with the Rugby Renegade sort of community. And the only thing I think we'd want more is to get kind of, if listeners have got any questions for some of the experts we have, then just ping them off, tweet them to us, email us, and we'll get them answered by some of the top experts. I think that's just a way to put it from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So obviously we've spoken a lot about how good the Rugby Renegades online subscription program is and our ebooks, so check them out at www.rugbyrenegade.com. Sign up or buy an ebook, and then in terms of the podcast, we'll have more coming soon, so check us out, subscribe to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher or iTunes, whichever one you use. Give us a good review, and there'll be more coming. Cheers, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. For more quality rugby strength and conditioning information, check us out at rugbyrenegade.com. Rugby Renegade, building machines.